T202 Hassan triple folders from 1912. Today, we're talking more happy hobby history. Happy hobby. I'm Dave Gunnison. If you're a sports car collector and you're working with a limited budget, that's what we do here. That's what we talk about. This card is not that expensive, so we'll be talking about that in a second. But I'm going to kind of go through the history of this T2O card, give you a little background to it, and help you appreciate why these cards are pretty awesome. This is part of my pre-war card collection. I like to get one card from all the different sets that are awesome from back in the day. I've already gone through, I've done an Allen and Ginter card from 1887. I've done a T206, the famous T206 set from 1909. I've done a video on that. And also done one on the 1939 play ball cards. So you can check those out after this video. Today, though, it's all about the T202 Hassan triple folders from 1912. Now I'm going to talk about the history about it for a little bit. We'll do a little overview on what this card is all about. And I'll talk about this card that I got and why it's pretty cool and what I'm doing with this collection. Like, why am I getting these, or what's my qualifications? Like, what cards do I look for when I'm trying to get one of these? I don't just get any card, but there's certain cards that they have to meet specifications, let's say. So I'll get into that in a little bit. But first, let's go ahead and talk about the history of this T202 card. It absolutely is one of the most unique and innovative cards in the entire hobby in the history of card collecting. It's actually pretty cool. And if you're into pre-war baseball cards, or you just love the history of the hobby, you're going to want to stick around for this one because it's pretty cool. This T202 set was released in 1912 by the American Tobacco Company, which we've talked about James Buck Duke before. He's important. He's an important guy. These cards were inserted into packs of Hassan cork tip cigarettes. A cork tip. Cigarettes sound gross enough, but now you got a cork that you're sucking on? That doesn't sound great. Now, this set contains 132 different cards, and they measure about 2¼ inches by 5¼ inches. So this is obviously it's a horizontal, it's a landscape card, as opposed to, you're used to seeing all the vertical cards. But this guy's a horizontal. Now, what makes this special is the design. Each card is basically made up of 3 different panels, 2 full color portraits on the sides and a black and white action photo in the middle. Think of it like 2 T205 cards, these 2 guys right here, and they do connect them together with this live action photo. And that's your T202 triple folder right there. The outside panels closely resemble that T205 set, but it doesn't have the gold borders that the T205 had, which closely resembles the T206, which didn't have gold borders either. So on the National League cards, the name is written in cursive script, and on the American League cards, the design features a bat and a ball with the player's name inside a banner. The backs of the outer panels give the biography of the player, while the back of the middle panel describes the scene that's happening in the photo on the front. These were a big deal. These were photos, actual photos of cards. Instead of, like you see on the sides, it has like a drawing of the player. Since these were folded up to fit inside cigarette packs, the ends were folded over the photo, you can probably guess what happened. Most of the surviving examples today, they have creases on them. They're torn apart. The sides are pulled off, like they're perforated. And this is, that's why it's tough to find T202 cards that are in high grades. So let's talk about the center panel first. There's 76 different black and white action photos that make up these center panels. But since they can be paired with different players on the sides, you wind up with 132 total cards in that checklist. So some of these center photos are absolutely iconic. Like one of the most famous shows, Ty Cobb stealing third base with his spikes sliding up high in the cloud of dust. It's a snapshot from a dead ball era frozen right there on the cardboard. That's pretty cool. Now let's talk about star power. Who was in this set? What makes it so awesome? This set is loaded with Hall of Famers. You'll find names like Tris Speaker, Frank Chance, Eddie Collins, John McGraw, Huey Jennings, and Home Run Baker. And Christy Mathewson appears multiple times, and even the great Cy Young appears, despite being at the very end of his career. Now, the undisputed key card in this entire set, though, is Ty Cobb. He appears on a number of variations, both in the side panels and in the center action photos, making his cards, those are the most sought after of all of them. The T202s also come either black or with red advertising on the backs. And just like the other tobacco issues of the time, it's tough to find them in clean, high-grade condition. It's not real easy. Thankfully, I wasn't looking for one in a high grade because I'm a sports card collector working with a limited budget. So I'll talk about the price of this card in a second, but you're going to be surprised, I think, at how much it costs. But the chances of these cards surviving in mint condition, pretty slim to none. So a sharp, crease-free T202 can command great, strong prices on the auction block, especially for Ty Cobb, Christy Mathewson, or any of the other Hall of Famers. So some historical context around this. T202s were really the evolution of what the tobacco companies were experimenting with at that time. You know, a year earlier, we mentioned 1911, they released the T201 Mecca double folders. Now, this is a triple folder, but now the double folder was actually two players sharing one card. The next year, they took it a step further with the triple folder concept. And, of course, that design is borrowed heavily from that T205 gold border set. It's a perfect mix of innovation and tradition, really. It's a blend of player portraits and that real game action in the middle. It's pretty cool. Now, you can find some reprints of these cards. I remember when I was young in the 70s, there was a booklet that had reprints of all these T206s and these triple folder cards that you could actually rip out and have as like reprint cards. That was pretty awesome. As a kid, I thought it was awesome. I thought it was a lot of fun. So listen, whether you're a hardcore pre-war collector or you're just learning about early baseball cards, the 1912 Hassan triple folders represents one of the most creative and historic sets ever produced. They capture legends of the dead ball era, showcase real on-field photography, and they stand as one of the toughest but most rewarding sets in the hobby. If you own one, you're holding a true piece of history. And for me, I just love this pre-war stuff. It sings to me. It's a lot of fun to collect. To think that this is a card that's 110, more than 110 years old, that's just awesome. I just really think that's cool. So now we're going to overlook this card itself, and I'll go through what I got, why I got this one, and the value, how much it cost me to buy it. All right, so here's the card itself. Now, as I mentioned, I have some specific criteria that these cards have to meet. One of them is it has to have decent eye appeal. I love the red backgrounds on these. I think that really helps make it pop. It's a clear photo. Actually, I say it's a photo. Actually, kind of looks more like a pencil drawing a little bit. Maybe a combination of both. But the card also has to be good enough to be graded. So I got a 1 on this. If it was just authentic, I don't want just an authentic card. I want one that's going to be good enough to be graded, good eye appeal. It also has to be in an SGC slab because I put it up in my display and I want all of them to look uniform. These are all pre-war cards. It's in a specific display that holds 6 to 8 cards. And I just want that it's special. Also has to have a Hall of Fame player on it. Now, I'll get into that a little bit more here. Or if it's not a Hall of Fame player, it has to have an interesting story behind the player that's on the card, or maybe the card itself has a really interesting story. And I want these cards to look like they're from that era. And you look at these two guys with their ball caps, like they definitely look like they're from that era. I mean, their uniforms themselves have collars on them. I mean, we don't see that anymore. But it definitely looks like it's from the early 20th century. If you didn't know that if you didn't see the label, you could say, yeah, it's probably early 20th century. And then finally, the slab has to be not too expensive. That's one of my things. And this was not too expensive. We'll just talk about the price. So I found this on eBay, and there are a bunch of 1912 T202 triple folders that are available for about $100. You can get these for about 100 or less than 190 bucks. This one I got for 60, I think $65, $68, something like that. So a graded SGC set. Look at the size of this slab. Let me find another card over here that's slabbed up. Look at the size of this slab compared to a regular SGC slab. It's massive. This thing's huge. I mean, it's almost as tall. It's pretty crazy. So it looks cool in the display because it has two. I'll show you, I'll do a picture of the display with this in there. But it's pretty cool. So first, here you can look at the label. 1912 T202 Hassan cigarettes. Chance beats out a hit. McIntyre and Archer. So first we'll do these two players. Harry McIntyre, he was just a pitcher. Played 9 seasons in the majors. Way more losses than wins. But for the Cubbies, he was pretty good. He had 2 winning seasons. And then this is James Archer. But on Baseball Reference, he's Jimmy Archer. He was born in Ireland. That's a horrible accent. Horrible accent. Gosh, should be gone. No, nothing. Horrible. Born in Ireland and became a catcher, first baseman for the Cubbies. Played 12 seasons. Actually had a decent little career. This is the guy. So let's flip this over. So this is the back. This is why it's 01. Makes sense, right? Plus that big old crease down the middle. Some kid jamming it into his thing. I also want to mention, so when these came out, this flap was folded and this flap's folded, and they're in a pack of cigarettes. Cork tip. Don't forget that part. But so these are unfolded now, but of course that kid, why wouldn't you just fold those back and then it'd be the size you want instead of folding right in the middle, you dumb kid? Anyways. So on the back, it explains what the photo is all about. Frank Chance has just beaten out a hit as seen in the picture. Like most of the fan favorites in private life, he is one of the most retiring and unassuming of men. But once he gets into baseball, togs on the diamond. He's a hard fighter and magnetic leader. Fresno, California, land of the grapes and wine, birthplace 1877. Attended University of Washington, UW, in that state for a time. Lure of the Diamond got him, and he joined the Chicago Nationals in 1899. They eventually became the Cubs. Credit is due Chance for having landed the Cubs second in 1911 with his pitching core shot to pieces and his famous infield broken up. So, Frank Chance, there's several reasons why he's a big deal. First, he was also a prize fighter. Back then, I think it was John Sullivan. There was a couple big-time prize fighters back then, and he was considered one of the greatest amateur fighters of his time. He was a Cubs manager, and I forget what his percentage was of wins in managing, the highest mark in baseball history, as a highest winning percentage in baseball history. So that's pretty cool. He was elected to the Hall of Fame. See, now these are player cards. So to me, these would be the more important ones to get as Hall of Famers. That's why those guys are much more expensive. If you get Frank Chance in one of these cards, I believe it's much more expensive. But I'm good with just them being right there. That's pretty cool. It's a gorgeous card. But Hall of Fame, elected in 1946. So he wasn't elected in the very first year, but he did get in the second year that they started inducting players into the Hall of Fame. So Frank Chance, he's also part of From Tinkers to Evers to Chance. You've probably heard that phrase before, From Tinkers to Evers to Chance. It's a famous double play combination of the Cubbies from this era. They won some World Series with Frank Chance as the manager. But that Tinkers to Evers to Chance, that came from a poem that was called Baseball's Sad Lexicon, and it was written by Franklin Pierce Adams in 1910. It's an 8-line poem, but it talks baseball, so it's pretty cool. And these, not these three, but Tinkers to Evers Chance helped the Cubbies win 2 World Series from 1906 to 1910. Very cool. He died. This guy died though, Frank Chance, in 19. Let's see, I believe it was 1924, which is pretty sad. But it says he died of complications. It was either with heart disease. Yeah, died in 1924 at the age of 47. Heart disease, or they believe it was like asthma, bronchial problems back then. Can you imagine that killing you back then? Like, it could kill you now, I guess, if it's not taken care of. So I thought you'd enjoy this. I thought that was this is fun. I'll show you a picture at the end here of what it looks like in my display. And let me know, do you think you're going to go out and get you a triple folder? A Hassan cork tip cigarette triple folder? They're fun. They're awesome. The fact that you can buy them and someone else has already sent in and paid for whatever this costs to get graded, I'm feeling that's a bigger chunk with SGC. But let me know. I think you'd like to have something like this in your collection. I'm excited to have it in my collection. And it's part of my happy hobby history now. So let me know what you think in the comments, and whatever you do, make sure you have a happy hobby.